The Jet Black Hedgehog, Chapter 4. Shadow uses a Doom Surf ability that references Shadow generations while Metal Overlord's in the background, instead of doing something new. It's nice that it cut past the boss fight this time, as if it heard the fan feedback from critics about last issue. It goes straight to the interesting part where Maria can see again and she's showing a ton of positivity about everything she can see. It's nice that there's nobody around her other than Shadow. So she gets to have all the focus on her. She gets to have all the dialogue. So there isn't any exposition bot keeping her from having character moments with him. He says now her eyesight is back. Like she didn't make that obvious a long time ago. What a stupid line. She realizes he's hurt, and I guess he lies to her on purpose about why so she won't be worried. Why have him reiterate what we clearly already know? I think this is an anime cliche. She shows concern for him and he runs off. It shows an erupting volcano and some more incomprehensible art as usual that keeps reminding me how trash it is that there's no color in this manga. Because it's constantly making it hard to tell what's going on. I don't know why they would be on a deadline so that they have to not color anything. Because this comic didn't even need to exist. And he's reminded he has to fight a monster to escape this place like that wasn't a given. And I can't take it seriously that Shadow doesn't point out no duh. Except in character. Shadow has to start another fight, and the comic does a good job of creating a scary tone with the way the text bubble is so overly big and black, attracting your attention to it. It's so lazy having an ability called Doom Spear. Why can't it just throw a Chaos Spear and achieve the same thing? Let's have a bigger Chaos Spear. That's creative. I'm guessing some magical god like Feist made the masters of each domains the masters of each domain just for kicks. Which could only be so he could enjoy seeing Shadow fight them because it's so pointless otherwise. Mephiles turns invisible and tries to attack him with a blade from the ground as he's got new powers as the plot demands, because it's a magical dimension he's in. Shadow says he's stuck, and after some incomprehensible sequential art, nothing worth talking about happens until Bug-Eye explains that Mephiles blocked Shadow's speed. Another convenient new power. And this one's incredibly overpowered. How would Shadow be able to survive after this? It'd be really convenient for Shadow if the only power of his he could block was his speed. The same logic behind him being able to block his speed would also apply to all of his other chaos powers, because they're all chaos powers. I can't tell what's going on again. Shadow ends up in some water, but he gets up anyways. Mephiles says this swamp is his limb so he can make anything. He ends up becoming an unrecognizable giant, so it's not even really showing what a Mephiles and Shadow fight would be like anymore. As if him having new powers didn't already do that. Of course, it is great that he had new powers, because otherwise, the fight would have been completely worthless. Why would I want to see the exact same thing again? He calls Shadow powerless, and that gets Shadow's ego bruised enough that he uses his imagination and just so happens to end up landing on a new power he has that he can use against him. Mephiles hypocritically calls him an ugly sight. And Shadow gets to attack him, but the only impact I ever saw is one time where Mephiles' head is hit against the floor. That's familiar. What's the point of the fight with Mephiles if we never saw any impact against them? Why is it too much to ask to see Shadow's fists and shoes smacking into him a bunch? Why even have a fight then? Instead it was just flashy rule of cool doing everything but have slapstick in it, which was the whole point. Mephiles says he wanted to make wishes come true himself, so he went after Shadow to prove he was the one with power so that he could do that. Why is he completely calm about his dream being destroyed? Wouldn't he be really upset about it? He heard about this exposition from Black Doom. Shadow hasn't heard his name before, despite the fact that he knew in an earlier issue that he was created by him. I wish he said father instead of parent so it would have the emotional impact it was supposed to. It's so tame the way it is. It doesn't lead to Shadow angsting that he never had normal parents. Shadow gets sent back and realizes that the only thing he can remember anymore is that he lost Maria and came here. Because this is a magical dimension, with magical things happening arbitrarily. He reunites with Maria and tells someone to get away from her because she looks like a monster. And he's just been fighting monsters, so it's entirely reasonable, I guess. The story ends with Black Doom talking to him. This issue was about Shadow having two fights that once again only managed to achieve tension because of the art, and Bug-Eye getting emotional about it. Maria gets to have exactly the reactions you'd expect, and it never goes beyond that. So it's good that she's in character, but I want a lot more than that. Mephiles doesn't act like he did in the game by saying that he just wants to exist and being pitiful, which is better than making the audience feel sorry for him and wish that he would have just had the common sense to leave Shadow alone and enjoy what he's got. It is ironic that a manga is better at keeping him in character than the game did. I guess I didn't hate this issue. It was annoying though that I don't know why Mephiles has these new powers, and the Mephiles fight ended up a completely wasted opportunity since we never see Shadow impact him in the fight personally, making clear that it's only Mephiles for some shallow fan service, and they didn't actually think. Only the Maria scene was actually worth reading. I bet the boss fights are just like the game, so why even bother with it?